Hello, everyone, and welcome to what is hopefully the first in a very fun challenge that I've got going for myself. Uh, First of all, welcome to the world of Stormworks Search and Rescue. Stormworks is a game that I have been in love with as soon as I saw it. It's the perfect blend of scrap mechanic meets uh, like firefighting and patrol boat simulators, I suppose is the best way of putting it. It's well, the best way of describing it is essentially it's a game where you act as a uh, Coast Guard person, Coast Guard men, somebody from the Coast Guard. There we go. Um, but what's interesting about it is that almost none of the vehicles in game for you, such as boats, helicopters, planes, land vehicles, because you can build them all. Because let's be honest, wouldn't you rather a Coast Guard have a vehicle that's amphibious in case they need to go onto a beach or something? Um, all of that stuff, there's hardly any pre-built, unless you want to look at the Steam Workshop. Instead, you build your own. So, as you can see, this game allows you to build to your heart's content, within certain reason, obviously. Um, and you can see there's a wide range of stuff in here. Now, for all of you that have played Stormworks before, I'm sure you know all this stuff. For those of you that don't, this is what Stormworks is. It allows for a lot of really cool stuff as well. You can do some really awesome logic in games, such as on-off, numbers, composite data, which is uh, essentially a mixture of the two, electricity, video, audio, and rope, which is a new one. I haven't really played around with it. It's essentially a new way of connecting stuff together. Uh, but there's a ton of really awesome stuff you can do with it. So, like, you've got motors, you've got fluid pipes, you've got tons upon tons of sensors, you've got uh, displays, you've got cameras, you've got monitors, you've got all this fun stuff. Uh, you can fly, you can swim, you can. I recommend if you're anywhere remotely interested in this game, I'd highly recommend you check it out. It's an awesome game. I love it. I love it. I love it. But that being said, I have been wanting to do something in this game for a very long time, and it's something that I've always really wanted to do and I do it in a couple of games, and I've been doing it in I'm going to start doing it Scrap Mechanic in terms of where episodes are. For reference, I'm in between. Uh, I just finished recording episode 2, which will be coming out maybe later this week. I don't have a rough idea on when the time frame is going to be for when videos go live. Mostly because I'm stupid and can't get my act together. But the I love this idea of having a mobile base, like almost Mad Max style, where you're not tied to one location per se. You're like a nomadic kind of person, and it's why I really like the idea of Mad Max, because you're constantly on the move, searching for what have you, um, and I love this idea of having a mobile base. And a while back, and I can't for the life of me remember the person who posted it. And I'll link all the stuff that I'm gonna be talking about down in the description, so you can go check it out yourself. But a while back, somebody released something really awesome on the workshop, and it's called the Red Union. And oh, wrong button. Let me do that. And as you can see, and it's been what you've been hearing in the background, this is the Red Union. It is a land ship, is what it's referred to as. It's it's a mobile base on wheels, or tracks, I suppose, in this specific situation. And as you can see, as I'm getting closer, it's getting bigger and bigger. This thing is about 3.5 stories tall, I think. And you can see just how big it is as I've got gotten closer. It's absolutely massive. And you can see it with the props right here. You can tell it's aquatic. It's an amphibious land vehicle, or specifically amphibious land ship. And what that essentially means, and you'll have to forgive, I kind of borked or screwed up something somewhere along the line, so it's not able to fully open that door. For those of you that know about the Red Union. But as you can see, it's got an elevator that you can get up. I'm actually going to speed this up a small bit. There's all controls here, and there's also ones built in on the tracks. You can see it's like a mobile base, essentially. You've got all sort of equipment that you need here. You've got cabins, food, washrooms, medic. There's a complete control center up above. You've got also crane control right over here. Yeah, here we go. Here's the control center, which is awesome looking in my opinion. It's very well done. But it isn't, and it's very cool. Don't get me wrong. I love this thing. I love playing with it. But there's one problem. Well, it's not really a problem, I'd say, but it just doesn't quite do it for me. And it's why I've decided on doing a whole new project. Now, don't get me wrong, this thing's massive. It's very impressive. It's incredibly well done in terms of the detailing. I mean, literally, you've got all kinds of awesome detail work on it. It's really cool and frankly kind of impressive. But I've decided to take it to the next level. Now, this is a roughly about the maximum size that you can get in the build area. And that's cool and all. Don't get me wrong, it's a very big build area, as you can very clearly see on how big this thing is. I mean, literally, the track is taller than you are as a player. But I don't think it's big enough. And I know that that's going to sound really strange, but I want to go bigger. I want to see just what we can do with this. And with that, I've decided to start what I call Project Crawler. So, or the Crawler, depending on how you want to think about it. The Crawler is a project that I have decided to try and take on just to see what happens when you take this idea to the extreme. So what the Crawler is, it's going to be it's not going to be a land ship like this. It's going to be a submersible vehicle. And what I mean by that is that it's not intended for moving on land. It's going to be a moving base, very similar to this, but it's going to be, the idea of it is that it's imagine a cruise ship, but underwater. And I'm not talking like a submarine. I'm talking it like drives along the seafloor. And that's why it's called the Crawler. And the idea is that it's going to be this massive thing. But that being said, there's one problem with that. And it admittedly is a rather big problem as well. If I return this to the workbench, and the game decides to load up, you can see this takes about the maximum space that I've got. This is an unmodded workbench, and I don't plan on modding it for this project. I'll get there. So how do we go about doing what I'm hoping for, which is going to be essentially this massive thing that is going to be at least 3 times as tall as what the Red Union is? Well, that's where the problem comes in. And I've decided to tackle this problem in a very weird way. At least weird in my opinion. I'm going to make it modular. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not going to be like, oh, I can place this module here. Oh, I can place this here. No, what I mean by that is that it's going to be split up into multiple sections, each of them being built in this build area and then assembled. And the idea is that once this is done, it's going to be very similar to like a cruise ship in that you've got amenities, you've got places for people to live, you've got crew quarters, you've got a control area, you've got like a main concourse area, all that kind of stuff. But what's going to be different is that it's also going to be similar to like a research lab. So there's going to, or like a research station. So there's going to be research labs. There's going to be submersible, like a moon pool. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. There's going to be a moon pool. There's going to be all that kind of stuff. Um, and there, I've decided that in doing this, I have to set some goals for myself. And I have actually started with this project so far. I have started making the first tread, and this is the treads are going to be pretty much the same on all four sides. It's going to be four treads in either place, or in the four corners. There we go. Words, they're very important, I assure you. Um, but I have some goals. First of all, I want this to be able to move. Now I know that that seems like really stupid, but it is still important to mention. I would like this to be able to move. Um, Second of all, I'd like this to be big. Specifically, I'd like this to be at least, and I'm using the build area as a unit, and I know that that sounds really stupid and weird, but because of how we're building this in sections, we're going to be using the build area to give an example of how big it is. The goal is for at minimum, for it to be 2 build units high, so a tread and then another unit on top of the tread. 3 wide, so tread, a unit, and then the other tread. And 4 units deep, so tread, unit, tread. That's the minimum. I'd like to build it bigger, obviously, for, well, obvious reasons, because it's supposed to be big. But that being said, I have to accept that there will be limitations. My computer, I don't want to get fried trying to render this stupid thing. But I want it to be big. I want it to be awe-inspiring, almost. I want this to be, like, imagine a floating, like, if suddenly all the nations came together and built a floating city, and it worked perfectly. I want it to be a mechanical marvel similar to that. I want it to be something noteworthy. Now, obviously, it's not going to entirely work. I am aware of my limitations. I'm aware of people's limitations. I'm aware of the software's limitations. I'm aware of the hardware limitations. That being said, I want to see what we can accomplish with this. There are two. Now that's the goals. Restriction-wise, I have a couple of restrictions that I've imposed on myself and on the community, and I'll explain that in just a moment. The restrictions are it needs to be able to be underwater. What I mean by that is that in the median area, and I'm probably going to figure that out later. I'm going to find like a specific place in the sea of Stormworks. So let me close that out. Because you can see it's quite a big sea for obvious reasons. It's called Stormworks for a reason. Somewhere around here, I'm going to gauge like a maximum height. The top of the crawler cannot exceed that height. The top of the crawler needs to be submerged underneath it. That being said, the air intake is excluded from that, because I want this to be able to be generating electricity underwater. And that obviously means like an air intake somehow. That it will be a fixed height above the very top of the crawler. That's a non-negotiable height. That is the maximum height. If the crawler goes below that water, well, you better have enough battery in order to get back to get the snorkel up above that water level. Obviously, the snorkel will be able to lower down if need be, but it won't be able to go above a certain height. Second limitation, it needs to have some sort of dry dock. And I'm not talking like submersible dry dock. It needs to have a method for people that are just cruising around to use a tender in order, and I mean tender by like a tender boat, to get to the crawler. And by doing so, we're going to have a submersible dry dock. And I know that sounds completely and totally absurd. Don't worry, it is. The way I'm planning on doing this is having essentially a massive unit. I'm not sure the exact size, but like bigger than like the ISO cargo containers in the game. That is on retractable cables that's able to go up to a certain level on the water, open up a door, have the boats drive into it, close the door, drag it down, and then open up that door, and now you're in the essentially like a small harbor inside of the crawler. Because, as I mentioned, it's going to be able to generate its electricity. You kind of need fuel to do so. And that's the best way of doing so, in my opinion. Just drag the whole fuel. I really wanted to curse right there, and I'm very sorry. Just drag the whole fuel tank down there. Just suck it all in. So that's my idea. And that's what I'm planning on trying. Now, obviously, I'm going to be recording as much of the build process as possible. I'm going to be streaming some of the builds up on Twitch. I'm going to be even posting about it up on Reddit. So make sure you're keeping track of the Stormworks Reddit. I will be posting out videos talking about all of that. And now this is the part that I'm really excited about. This is a community challenge. I'm not asking you to go and make your own crawler, because that's just absurd, because I know that some computers can't handle that. I'm not even sure if my computer can handle it, but we'll see where it goes. What I'm asking for you to do is either A, make your own units, or B, make your own sections of units. And as we get farther into the build, I will be kind of explaining how that works. Because obviously, like, how do you do interconnectivity between units? How do you transfer data? What data is being transferred? All that kind of stuff. That will be figured out as we go along, and as I gauge more and more of interest in the community. Because obviously, as much as I'd love there to be a standard for communication between different user builds, that doesn't exist. As much as I love our community, we do suck with some stuff. Which happens to be making standards. For example, the Era ISO only was created, like half a month ago? And we've had planes for how long? So we do suck a small bit when it comes to standards, and I'm very much aware of that, and we'll be figuring that out as we go along. But for the moment, that's currently where we've got. So let's start out with what we do have. We have one of the treads, or specifically the tread, because it's just going to be 4 of the exact same tread. I don't see a reason to make 4 unique treads for each corner. And I've made it such that it's able to handle that fact. So this is what I have created so far, and you'll notice that it is a bit bouncy. That's a known bug, apparently, with vehicles that have massive number of treads like this. I might be making the tread a tiny bit smaller because of that, to handle that issue. I don't want to have to deal with that, but for the sake of stuff working, we might just have to do so. But let's see what we do have so far. So we've got a lovely little staircase that folds out, which I am immensely proud of the fact that I was able to figure out how to create a custom microcontroller to be able to do that. I am way too proud of myself for being able to figure that one out. And you can see we have an electric bank here. We've got actually a flopping door up here because I don't think I ever connected it up with the electrics. So that might hinder a small bit of this. But you can see we've got door ladders. That just turns off the electricity for the fold-out stairs. It does not reduce the seal around the door. So as you can see, we still have a seal around it. It just means that we can't open them, essentially. And that's just to conserve battery. Drive motors are exactly what you'd think they are. They're all of the treads are driven with these large electric motors. There's 4 of them. I believe I've got. No, I'm not driving the top. That's right. So I've only got 3 of them. Front, bottom, and then 2 back. As you can see there, I've got gearboxes. Those gearboxes might be going away. They're there temporarily until I figure out if electric motors can go backwards. Because I'm stupid. And I am the big dumb. So I need to figure that one out. Because I'm mostly really stupid. And you can see the engine electrics. Those are for the massive powerhouse that you're seeing here. These are not supposed to be the final engines. These are engines that are meant to be used to power all the vitals. They're not the non-vitals. These are only powering the vital stuff. So the treads and the controls. And also air. But that's kind of a weird... That's a weird area that I'm going to be explaining probably in a later video. So that's what the... And there's, of course, each of these powerhouses are going to be in a tread. There will be a central unit that is specifically just generators for all the non-vitals, all the lights, all that kind of stuff. That's coming in later. I don't know when, but that's coming in later. And then you can see we've got... So that's the engine electrics. The engines are not finished yet. I still need to figure out... They're pretty much ready. I've got all the air intake stuff dealt with, and I've got all the air intake stuff dealt with, both in and out of water. And that's why you can see that I've got some pipes kind of going in every which way. That's because it's going to be able to take air if it's just by itself, if it's independently being controlled, like moving it from the spawn area into the water. It's going to be able to independently do so and take air in from the atmosphere and take fuel in from the backup tanks, which you can see right there. When it's in the water and is connected to another unit or some sort of a steering unit above it, it's going to be taking air and fuel in from that, which you can see is this. Oh, you can see I've got this kind of clever, if I can get to a good place to kind of see it, because it's kind of I put stuff in awkward locations. I'm bad about it. I'm aware. There we go. So I've devised this weird system to allow for these fluid pumps and fluid filters, so that there's 2 fluid intakes. One of them is going to be air, one of them is fuel. The way that this is designed is that either side can intake either of them. And that's what the fluid filters allow for. And it will be taking those instead of from the regular air or the independent air intakes, because those got another fluid filter in it, making sure that water doesn't get into the system for obvious reasons. And then we have the independent drive controls. This is, again, for independently moving this into position. As you can see, I've got really simple levers here. You can see it's kind of moving along. It's moving a lot faster than it's supposed to, and I need to work on possibly doing a reduction on that. Figuring out something for that, because this is way faster than it's supposed to be moving. So that's going to be eventually put into place. But these controls are only supposed to be when it's in independent mode. Otherwise, which is when it's being driven locally, getting into the water. If there's a problem with any of the systems up above at the bridge. Sorry, there's a good word. The bridge. If there's any issues at the bridge, you can control it manually. Each of them manually. Hopefully that never happens. It's to be seen. We're doing this kind of in universe, so if something did happen, you'd have engine men go into each tread and independently control, and that's what that electrics are for. Otherwise, you can turn off the independent control, and it will default to the master control in the bridge. As for connections, I I feel like I've been talking for way too long for this. As for connections, you can see the two fluid filters that I was talking about, or the two fluid intakes, and then there's two electrics. These are electric in and electric out. In this case, it's electric out because it's the powerhouse. That's what those electrical connections are for. And then I've got a door up above and then a door down below. These allow for the composite. Oh, hello. Thank you. This allows for additional composite input and output. And I think you can actually... Yes. You can also send numbers or a number and a variable through these. And I don't think you can... Yeah, no, you can't. That's fine. I was almost certain you can. But you can send through both the top door and the hatch a number and then a on-off. And then you can send a composite, along with all the others being able to send a composite. What the composite is, we'll figure out down the line. It's probably going to be video and controls for all the motors and all that kind of stuff. But there's there we go. There's two doors for specifically that. The bottom hatch is just there for connectivity's sake. Also because I think it looks kind of nice. I might eventually replace it with with the big dock connector. That's to be seen. I probably will. This door is, however, for access. This is an access hatch door for the unit that is above it, what I'm going to refer to as the steering unit for now. For the part that rotates, there will be an access hatch, which you can go down to, and you can reach a very similar door to this. And because these are docking doors, they can connect together. And they will be able to act as essentially a airlock to some degree. And you can use that to go into the tread itself and bug fix whatever is going wrong there. That's what that door is for. Now, obviously, this tread looks incredibly boring. It's white. I'm aware it looks boring because it's white. And I'm not saying anything in regard to race. It's just boring because it's a singular color. I'm aware of this. This is going to be changing. This will probably become either a dark blue or a dark gray. I'm not entirely sure yet. And there will be writing on it. But that is further down the line once I figure all that nonsense out. But as of the moment, that's what I've got so far. And the tread is not complete either. As you can see, it looks kind of weird on top. And there's a lot of just empty space on the bottom. And also, the engines don't work yet. So that's all going to be figured out soon enough. That the engines will probably be done off screen, but I will probably be recording me as a time lapse, finishing up the tread, and then working on the steering unit on however I'm going to be doing that. Because this is very important. Nobody has figured out how to do a hallway or a rotating pivot that is airtight. And it drives me nuts that, like, I looked everywhere and I couldn't find anyone that has done it. So we will be figuring out how to deal with that later on. That'll be another one of our challenges that we are going to be facing as the whole build gets continued on. And I'm looking forward to that challenge because I love challenges, and also it's something new that nobody's done. And trust me, I looked. I couldn't find anyone. Though if Mr. N Jersey figures out a way, I will be singing his praises more than I usually do, because I fully believe that he would be able to figure out how to do so. Mr. N Jersey, if you're watching this, I challenge you to figure out a way to do so. And I'd love to see what you figure out with that, because you do some awesome stuff in this game. It's very impressive. But that being said, we don't have a way of doing it just yet. We're going to be figuring that one out. So that's what the crawler challenge / build is. It's a giant base that's going to be driving around underwater. And it's supposed to be, again, very similar to, say, like a cruise ship that drives around underwater. So I know you can't see it. I'm just shrugging like I expect you to be able to see me shrugging. But that's what the crawler project is. And again, it's something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I'm finally getting around to it. And it will be either awesome or a horrible mistake. We will figure that out soon enough, I suppose. So please let me know if you guys are interested in helping out with this challenge. I will be posting videos up as we go along, but please let me know what you guys think. If you got any suggestions on what modules to put in, what units to do, that kind of stuff. Um, or alternatively, if you want to start building stuff for it, go ahead. I'd love to see what you guys come up with, because obviously, one person building something this big, sure, it's going to at least mean that stuff is uniform. But where's the fun in that? It means that you don't get to interact and do something really awesome, like just build something like this. And that's why I really want people to come in and help out with this project. So, again, let me know what you guys think down below. Um, if you want to see more stuff like this and you want to see more of this build occur, and trust me, as we go along, I'm sure you will. Uh, Hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you can get notified via email when stuff gets posted. Uh, and also, just leave a like, or just let me know that you guys are actively interested in this. Or if you don't like it, leave a thumbs down, I suppose. I'm not gonna force you to hit that like button, but it does let me know that you guys are actually interactive and you guys want to see what I'm posting, and it gives me a better idea on how much interest there is in projects like these. Because if this goes down well, I might be doing other community builds like this in other games. Now, obviously, it won't be the same as the crawler, because the crawler only really works in Stormworks, and well, I think it would really only be fun in Stormworks because you have to deal with certain stuff that you don't in other games. But the idea of a community build, if we get more interest in that kind of stuff, I think I might start doing some more community builds in other games. Oops. So please, please, please let me know what you think down in the comment section. And as always, I have been DJ Zelix. This has been Team Lone Wolf. This will be and has been the Crawler Project. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video, which we're probably will be working more on the tread. So as always, stay tuned and see you in the next one. Goodbye.